And now some news from the world over. President Donald Trump is looking to move past his tumultuous European tour and widely criticized press conference with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Before a White House cabinet meeting on Wednesday, Trump returned home to domestic issues, touting, among other things, the strength of the economy and being close to a bilateral trade agreement with Mexico. But Russia was still on the mind of the press. A reporter was able to sneak in a question.
Is Russia still targeting the U.S., Mr. President?
Thank you very much. There's been no president ever as tough as I have been on Russia. All you have to do is look at the numbers, look at what we've done, look at sanctions, look at ambassadors not there, look, unfortunately, at what happened in Syria recently. And I think President Putin knows that better than anybody, certainly a lot better than the media. He understands it, and he's not happy about it. And he shouldn't be happy about it, because there's never been a president as tough on Russia as I have been.
For more on this, it has been a little over a year since my next guest was shot during a congressional baseball practice here in the Washington, D.C. area. His injuries were critical, but his recovery has been nothing short of miraculous. I sat down with Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise earlier today. We discussed his incredible recovery, his faith, and everything from immigration to gun control. In full disclosure, Congressman Scalise is my congressman in New Orleans. Here's our exclusive interview with House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. Congressman, first of all, thank you for the time. I want to take you back. It's been a little over a year now since that day on the congressional practice field when you endured something that none of us hope to ever see, a real tragedy, but it changed you. I've spoken to your colleagues and they say you're a different man afterward. Do you see that?
Probably not as much as them, because it didn't change my philosophy. It more changed, I think, my focus. And you realize what's important in life when you go through something like this. I mean, coming this close to not making it. I know that I wanted to get back and be able to go home and see my family again at home, and then to get back to work. I loved my job, and wondered sometimes if I was going to be able to do that. So it really does sharpen your focus on the things that matter in life.
How is your recovery? Where are you now? And how has your faith sustained you through this recovery process?
My faith has been just unbelievable in helping give me the strength to get through this, because I already had a strong faith and prayed to God that morning for some very specific things, and God looked out for me. He provided real miracles that day. But then it was the prayers of friends and family back home, but people all across the country, people I'd never met before that were praying for me. That gave me incredible strength. I felt it, and I've shared that with people because I think it's important to know. I mean, we're all asked to pray for people every day that we might not know, or a friend who's got his mom has cancer. And you say the prayer, and maybe you wonder, I'm saying it out of courtesy, but does it really go anywhere? It really does have an impact on people. And
it certainly did.
And sure had an impact on me.
Because of your experience and what you went through that day, you, I think, more than so many who talk about what should we do about gun violence, what should be our response policy-wise, you have a unique perspective. Now, the Bishops' Conference, as you know, have supported some gun control restrictions. They are for a ban on assault weapons, limits to high-capacity magazines, penalties for gun trafficking, restrictions on those who can purchase. Would you support those measures? And how do you receive that as a Catholic?
First of all, there's already a large number of laws on the books that limit in different ways people's ability to buy guns. I'm real concerned when you see attempts by government to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to get guns, because it was two heroes, the United States Capitol Police officers, David Bailey and Crystal Griner, that were there with me that morning. If they didn't have their guns to counter the shooter, I wouldn't be here, and a lot of other members of Congress wouldn't be here. I mean, it's that dramatic. So the idea of taking away guns, look, the person that's out there to break another law, there's already 10 or 12 laws you're going to break before you kill somebody with a gun. And to think that some new magic law is going to stop it from happening, let's enforce the laws on the books. Let's make sure that we're addressing things like mental health, which we've done some things in Congress to do that. But at the end of the day, when they talk about each shooting is different, first of all. So it was a bump stock in Vegas. It might be an AR-15 here. In the case of my shooting, it was a semi-automatic rifle that nobody would suggest taking away. I mean, there have been mass crimes committed with shotguns. Nobody's trying to suggest taking away shotguns. So why don't we focus on the things that actually can make a difference and not try to take away more guns from law-abiding citizens? That's only going to stop and let the next shooter have free reign over other people.
Congressman, a lot of people forget your shooting, the shooting you were a victim of, was politically motivated. And are you concerned about the rhetoric and the hot rhetoric we're hearing and the talk of violence accompanying it? And how do we alleviate that? Do you fear when you come into the Capitol every day that you're going to endure something else like this?
Well, you can't live your life in fear, first of all. I made that decision early off after I was recovering that I'm not going to focus on what happened. I'm going to focus on getting better because it takes all of my energy to keep getting better and go through the physical therapy I need to learn how to walk again and ultimately be able to walk without crutches. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was worried about other factors. You know, you've just got to live your life, and we've got to reduce this toxic rhetoric, though. And I've been very vocal to my colleagues. Let's disagree on the issues we disagree on. I mean, that's what's great about our country is that we can express our disagreements with government, with colleagues, with your friends. But you don't make it personal. You don't incite violence. You shouldn't be encouraging people to go out and harass somebody in the Trump administration because you don't agree with their policies. That's not acceptable. That's not what our democracy is about. It's not about violence. We settle our differences at the ballot box. That's what makes America unique and great. We can't allow that to escape.
You were standing behind Speaker Ryan the other day when he corrected the president's comments in Helsinki. Now, the president himself has since come out and clarified them. Is that correction sufficient for you and the House members?
I think it is. You know, first of all, what the president did is stand behind our intelligence agencies, which I stand behind, but also he stood behind the work that we did in the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes's committee, important work that exposed a lot of this underbrush over at the FBI, where you had people over there with very, very, I think, irrational and irresponsible political motivations, people who were trying to stop President Trump from getting elected. We've exposed that, but we also exposed that Russia did meddle with the election. There was no collusion between either campaign, and the meddling that Russia did didn't have an effect on the outcome. They didn't change a vote at a ballot box, but they meddled, and we ought to stop them from meddling. But President Trump pointed all of that out.
How serious a misstep was this in Helsinki?
Well, I think, first of all, the fact that he corrected it is a significant point to make. And it's, you know, presidents rarely do that.
But the president also kind of equivocated a little bit. He said, look, I support our intelligence community. Russia meddled in the election, but others might have too. Which kind of undercut
clearly it doesn't mean just Russia meddled. I mean, that's a correct statement. There are other countries who try to meddle in our elections, not just Russia. So to think it's just Russia trying to do it, Russia did try to do it. They weren't successful, fortunately, but we ought to push back. We've increased sanctions against Russia. What I look at is the actions that President Trump has taken to stand up against Russia. And those are significant, by the way. Things that President Obama didn't do. Look, the Ukrainians asked President Obama for help to push back against Russian aggression. They wanted to buy missiles from the United States. President Obama kept pushing back and delaying and not authorizing it. President Trump very quickly gave them that help, allowed them to stand up to the Russians. He expelled Russian diplomats. He's increased sanctions against Russia. So President Trump has taken real action to stand up against Russia. And ultimately, it's those actions that we ought to be looking at.
I want to talk about a move to impeach Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. There is a movement among some of your House members to do so. I know the Speaker is at odds with them. Their rationale is he's not cooperating with our probe, he's not forthcoming with documents. Do you support that move to impeach Rod Rosenstein?
Well, I think, and I've talked to Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan about this, and what they're doing ultimately is pushing to get the Justice Department and the FBI to comply with our investigation and our oversight. And we saw for a while that the FBI was not complying. And so using every tool that's available, and obviously impeachment is a tool that's available, you don't want to have to use it, but to lay that on the table and say, look, if you don't comply, you have to comply with Congress. Give us the documents that we requested. There's some real serious allegations about bad apples in the FBI. Frankly, the FBI ought to be working with us to root out the bad apples, not trying to cover this up. And if they're going to try to cover it up, we're going to use every tool we have. And so I support their efforts to get the facts and the truth and we're getting more facts and more truth every step of the way, in part because of the fact that we're willing to put our tools on the table.
Immigration remains a hot topic. I know you hear about it every day. There's certainly bills that have been swirling around for a long time. The Bishops' Conference, the Catholic bishops, have come out against the family separation. The president has tried to repair that. I want to read you their statement. They said, "Our government has the discretion in our laws to ensure that young children are not separated from their parents." And they go on, they say, "Separating babies from their mothers is not the answer, and it is immoral." When you saw that as a Catholic, you thought what?
Well, I agree that we don't want to be separating parents and children. The law, ultimately, in court rulings over the law, things like what's called the Flores decision, have forced the administration to separate. Think about this. Current policy, as it's being carried out under law, says if you have a family that comes across the border illegally, and you take the parents and you go and find out if they were breaking the law, and if it turns out they were breaking the law, by law today, you have to send the parents back and keep the children here. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We ought to fix that, by the way, in both immigration reform bills that we had on the House floor, what were called Goodlatte 1 and Goodlatte 2. Both bills fully funded the wall that President Trump requested, and I strongly support that. But both bills fixed and reversed that Flores decision so that the kids and the parents stay together. Whether they stay together might mean you came here illegally, you have to go back home together as a family. You don't split the families up.
Do we essentially have catch and release now, where they're catching these families, but then they're releasing them because of a
catch and release?
A judge said you can't detain
catch and
the
release
families.
Is the policy today because of previous and current law. We need to change that. Again, in our bills that we passed, or that we tried to pass out of the House, we ended catch and release. We need to reverse those policies. We ended the visa lottery system, which is a crazy current legal immigration law that says every year we let in 55,000 people into our country legally, where they literally pluck the names out of a hat, and in many cases from countries who don't even like us. Why are we doing that? We reversed that in the bill we brought to the floor. We weren't able to pass it. Not one Democrat, by the way, voted for any of these bills to fix these problems.
Two quick questions before I let you go. This week, you all are focusing on tax reform. Kevin Brady raised the issue the other day that you will make these tax changes permanent. When the last round of budget cuts and the spending bill already blew a hole in the deficit, can we afford to make these tax cuts permanent?
Well, first of all, the fact that we cut taxes is getting our economy moving again. A healthy economy is not only good to rebuild our middle class, families see more money in their paychecks. That's a really good thing.
Government
but it's
receipts
also
up?
giving, government actually takes in more money. And so it's, some people don't believe in that form of economics, that when the economy is doing well, more money comes into the Treasury. But the facts are on our side, that you actually get more revenue generated because people are working. Look right now, what's happening right now, Raymond. You've got millions of people who had given up looking for work. Under the Obama economy, where you had slow growth, high unemployment, millions of people just gave up looking for work, so they don't even show up in your unemployment numbers. Well, today we've got more job openings right now than there are people looking for work. That's a great thing, but it also means now we're seeing millions of people come back into the workforce. And as they come back into the workforce, they're not on welfare, they're actually earning a living, paying taxes, becoming part of the American dream again. So that increases money to the federal treasury. That's a good thing. We need to keep it going. We need to make the tax cuts permanent.
Speaker Ryan has already said he's stepping down. Your name has been floated many times as a possible successor. First of all, should Paul Ryan step down before midterms for fundraising purposes, for the purposes of having the caucus coalesce behind a single vision and a single leader that they know will lead them on the other side? And are you in the running for Speaker? Are you throwing your hat into the ring?
Well, first of all, when the Speaker made his decision, I respect it. I mean, look, Paul's got a young family. He wants to be able to spend more time with his family, see his kids grow up. And very few speakers, by the way, have been able to leave on their own terms. When you go back in history, maybe Tip O'Neill might be the last speaker who left on their own terms. And so it's not easy to do, and our conference fully supports what he's doing. And by the way, he's been able to continue to set records, raising money so that we can keep our majority. What I've always said in terms of what I'm doing today, I love this job that I have. It's a job that takes a lot of time. I get to work with every member of our conference, which is a great part of it, get to know them better, also get to help them push the agenda that they want, the conservative agenda that's got us the majority. we better stay focused on continuing to do our job because the majority's up for grabs. You see Nancy Pelosi out there. She's saying she'll be Speaker again. She's saying as Speaker, by the way, she'll raise taxes. She will abolish ICE. Literally, think about that. Getting rid of the people who enforce our border laws.
Well, you wanted to bring a bill forward to allow a vote on this.
Yeah, I said, okay, if they want
to
abolish ICE, let's call them on it and put the bill on the floor and make everybody vote because
so why did
it's a radical idea. Well, you know, look, he's got some other things he wants to focus on. We're bringing a bill to the floor that will at least stand behind our ICE agents. We support ICE. We support the brave men and women who sacrifice their lives to get these drug dealers and these terrorists, human traffickers out of our country. So anyway, that's something we're going to continue to push. We need to move our conservative agenda, show the contrast between what we're doing to get the economy moving and what Nancy Pelosi would do to reverse that. And then we've got to hold the majority. And if we lose focus on that, nobody's going to be arguing over who's going to be Speaker because it'll be Nancy Pelosi. We can't let that happen.
What's the hardest part of this job before I let you go?
You know, every day is a different day,
so
it makes it a lot of fun. For you. But you just don't have enough time in the day. I mean, there's so many things that you want to do that you just don't have the time to do. You squeeze as much as you can into a day. Last night it ended at 11:30 at night. But you know what? It's a great job. I love being able to be back here, back in the game, doing this job that I love. And you know, how do you complain? Every day you wake up, you know, God's given me a gift.
Well, thank you, and thanks for being our congressman and doing it so well.
Appreciate it.